Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Today, we're going to be taking a look at a clip of Tess Holiday having a meltdown because Southwest made her buy a second seat on a flight when she apparently couldn't fit into one. Based on the DMs that she shows a screenshot of, it seems like she tries to mention being famous to the flight attendant to try to avoid having to buy a second seat, and it doesn't work. We'll definitely dig a little deeper into that. We're also going to be taking a look at several bonus clips from other people complaining about Southwest making them buy a second seat, so be sure to stick around until the end. Before we proceed, please click the like button so that I may apply comb to mustache.
Yeah, I called customer service yesterday and they said that if there's open flights, like you said, there's 28 open seats, that you guys would just give me a seat. They said if the flight was full, I would have to purchase it. So that's why when you said I had to purchase it, I was just confused.
Okay, so apparently Tess Holiday is not familiar with the new policy that states if you don't fit into one seat, you'll have to buy a second seat, and if the flight takes off not full, you may be reimbursed for that second seat.
So the thing with us and our customer service on the phone, we're never on the same page.
Gotcha.
We're never on the
Caption on the screen reads, "And I am flying with my 9-year-old who doesn't even take up a full seat, so who am I inconveniencing? And the flight has 29 open seats." So she's complaining that she has to buy a second seat, even though they will reimburse her later.
So what is the official policy? That if you present like in a larger body, you have to buy the extra seat?
If you present in a larger body. I think it has to do with fitting into one seat. If we don't fit into one seat, we'll have to purchase an extra seat, and if the flight takes off and it's not full, Southwest may reimburse us for the cost of that seat. So we will have to pay an upfront cost, but they'll reimburse us later, which is pretty nice because we actually did use the second seat.
And then if the aircraft leaves with even if it leaves with just one empty seat, you're entitled to reimbursement for that.
Okay. I'm sure it seems like I love coming on the internet complaining about things to you guys.
No, it doesn't seem like you love complaining at all, Tess. What are you talking about?
And I have to say, I truly don't. It's absolutely exhausting.
Is it exhausting to constantly complain about things?
I'm at the airport right now getting ready to fly to Dallas from LA. I've flown with Southwest a million times, but today when I was checking in, the gate agent, or not the gate agent, the guy at the front was like, "Are you familiar with our customer size policy?" And I'm like, "Yes, I am." I called customer service yesterday to prepare for this. If the flight isn't full, that the gate agent will give you an extra seat to accommodate you. But no, I was told today that you have to pay for the seat and they reimburse you.
Yes, you do have to pay for the seat up front, and they will reimburse you if the flight is not full. Let's take a look at this DM. Somebody is saying to her, "I see these videos on it all the time with plus-size flyers who never usually need another seat, and then one day they encounter an agent who makes them get one." And Tess Holiday responds with, "The gate agent knew who I was and let me on the plane first, and then said, 'I love your content,' and I told her what happened, and she said that that's not the policy, that they're not supposed to charge you unless the flight is full." Okay, so the gate agent recognized you and said, "I love your content," and let you on the plane first. And she also said that's not the policy. They're not supposed to charge you unless the flight is full. So that never happened because that is not the actual new policy at all. She definitely wouldn't have told you that you don't have to pay for a second seat. So did the rest of that happen either?
And I just want to know, what sense does that make? What sense does it make charging people when you're already going to reimburse them?
I think it's really nice that they're willing to reimburse you. Why are we so angry that we have to pay for it ahead of time? They don't know if the flight is going to take off full or not until it actually takes off, so.
Imagine the amount of people that don't have access to an extra $440, which is how much I had to pay to get on my flight.
Okay, well, I suggest if we don't want to pay for a second seat, that we don't spill into a second seat. I know hindsight is 20/20, but...
And I know a bunch of you out there are going to be like, "Oh, just lose weight," or "Oh, well, you're fat, that's what you get." But stuff like this doesn't just impact people that exist in a larger body.
It used to be living in a larger body. Now we're existing in a larger body. I've heard this phrase a couple times recently. The lexicon is evolving.
This is bigger than me.
You want me to make some kind of joke right there. I'm not going to. I'm not going to make some kind of joke right there. Nice try.
Pun intended.
Oh! Gotti! She got herself.
I guarantee that Southwest is going to eliminate a lot of their customer base with such a really ridiculous, discriminatory new policy.
Okay, well, I don't think it's discriminatory, but Southwest is applying this new policy very heavily. I'm not sure what other airlines are doing when somebody doesn't fit into one seat, but Southwest is actively going out of their way looking for people living in a larger body or existing in a larger body and making them pay for a second seat now. I don't know if it's just because they formerly had a customer of size policy and a bunch of people were taking advantage of it, and that's why now they have to be so gung-ho about telling people that they'll have to buy a second seat. I don't know what the deal is, but they seem to be enforcing this new policy very heavily. A lot of people are having complaints about Southwest lately. That DM that Tess showed was very interesting as well. She said the flight attendant recognized her, let her on the plane first, and then also told her that's not how it works. If the flight isn't full, you shouldn't have to pay for a second seat at all. So that sounds like that story didn't happen, because you would imagine the flight attendant would understand the new policy. So did they really let you on first and also recognize you? Next.
I want to talk about Southwest because I too have been a recipient of the "have you flown with us before" conversation. They want us to buy 2 seats.
Is that how they start these conversations off now? Have you flown with us before? You ever flown with Southwest? And then you're like, yeah. And they're like, we got a new policy. Have you heard about it? And then they and then they just start going into the buy the second seat spiel.
Cool. All right. So we do the right thing, right? And we buy the 2 seats. Left cheek, right cheek, each get a seat. Sure. Fine. Fine. Good. But now we also have to upgrade the seats, right? Because the seats need to be next to each other, obviously. So we need to upgrade to be able to choose our seats, right? So we're already paying way more.
Oh, if you buy a second seat and you want it to actually be next to you, you have to upgrade and pay more for that?
Than if we just got a rented seat. But that's not enough, right? Because then you also still have 1, 2, maybe 3 gate agents coming up to you saying, hey, have you flown with us before? Have you flown with us before? And you're like, yep, I have 2 seats. I'm good. Leave me alone.
See, they're enforcing this policy in a very bizarre way, where they have several different team members accost you as you walk through the hallway and be like, yo, have you flown with us? Are you comfortable? Can you fit into one seat? Like, they're taking a very aggressive approach.
But that's not enough too, right? Because then they rearrange one of your seats. They say, oh, we're gonna move this one. We're gonna move this one across the plane.
Didn't you pay for the upgraded seat just to have them all next to each other?
We're gonna move your right cheek seat across the plane.
That's not gonna work. This isn't gonna work. She's like, what? I need my right cheek to be right next to my left cheek. I can't have my right cheek here and my left cheek down in row 29.
Hello?
Yeah.
Or they sell it. Or they straight up sell it. They say, oh, well, you know, this seat's not really being taken. It's an empty seat. So they sell it. Now they get double the money for that seat. And then your ass is not boarding.
Did this happen to you? You bought the extra seat. You upgraded the seats so they would all be next to each other and all this. They move one of your seats. They sell one of your seats. They do all sorts of stuff like that, even though you bought all the stuff you were supposed to.
You could do everything right. You could do what they want you to do. You could be good and do all the right things. And you still are not guaranteed a seat on that plane.
That's wild. If I paid for all this extra stuff, an extra seat, and an upgrade so it's next to me and not across the plane or whatever, and you still want to kick me off or do all this other stuff, I would be upset.
Even if you pay hundreds of dollars for a one-way seat. So what are we supposed to do? If
So this happened to you.
If buying the 2 seats and upgrading them so they're together is still not the right thing to do to even just avoid being humiliated with the public conversation.
I can honestly understand why you would be annoyed if you keep getting approached by employees that are asking you if you bought a second seat, if you already bought a second seat. Like, I think if we're gonna have employees ask people if they bought a second seat, we should do it at one place only. Like when they go to check in or before they board or whatever the heck, that's where it should be done. We shouldn't also have employees walking around doing this
In front of everyone by 1, 2, 3 gate agents. Fly Delta, I guess.
Okay, so that was a messed up story. She did everything she was supposed to do. She bought the extra seat. She upgraded it so it's right next to her and her butt cheeks get to actually be in the same row. And apparently that still wasn't enough. They didn't let her on the flight. It was overbooked. It was full. Something like that. That's a really messed up situation. And like I said, there has to be a better way to handle it than to have every single Southwest employee come up to you and ask you if you need a second seat. Like just the gate agent can ask that, or one person at one particular point in our journey can ask that question. I can see how it would be annoying if you keep getting approached by every single employee that works there and asked if you bought a second seat, especially if you already did. And if they did all that stuff, made you buy a second seat, moved your seat, still kicked you off the flight anyway, that's messed up. Next.
I was approached by a Southwest gate agent on my way home from Myrtle Beach when I went on vacation with my mom and brother. She singled me out, came up to me, and asked me if I needed an extra seat. I told her no. I was traveling with my mom and brother. I had traveled there just fine. We were traveling back. We all sit together, 3 in a row. I had used Southwest customer of size policy multiple times before that. So I know how it worked, but I knew that I didn't need it because we were all sitting together anyway.
Okay, so if you were spilling into a second seat, it was your family member. So it like wasn't a huge deal. They were like, whatever, you can spill into my seat. I can see that being a thing.
Even after I said no, she still proceeded to
Side note, my mom started getting so mad, laughy face.
ask me a couple more times, and I told her, I am fine, I am fine, I am fine. This was a few years ago. Now, while it was annoying to me to keep having to tell her no, and it was a little bit embarrassing to be singled out, I actually appreciated that they were so aggressive in their approach to make sure that I was comfortable and that other passengers were also comfortable. How do you go from that? Calm down. How do you go from insisting that a customer use the customer of size policy to make sure that they and other customers are comfortable to forcing them to pay $400-$500 for another seat?
It's the same thing. They went from making you have a second seat to making you have a second seat. It's the same thing, except now you're more likely to have to pay for it because there are fare classes and there has to be an empty seat within your same fare class for you to be reimbursed. How come it wasn't problematic or embarrassing the first time when they said you had to get a second seat, but now when they're telling people they have to get a second seat, it is?
Mid-layover, mind you, or canceling their flight altogether when they flew from the previous destination just fine.
Okay, I absolutely agree with that. If I'm on a layover, like I came from somewhere else to this airport and now I need to go from this airport somewhere else, and now you want to make me buy a second seat? That is bollocks, mate. I already flew from wherever to here, and now you basically have me hostage. You're like, oh, if you want to continue on the rest of your journey and get home, you'll buy a second seat. And you're like, what? But I already flew from there to here. And they're like, yeah, well, that sucks. If you want to get home, I guess you'll buy a second seat then. Like, they really got you. They have you in a messed up situation where you'll be stranded if you don't buy the second seat. That's not right.
I have no issues with an airline stating that they want their customers to pay for extra seats if they so need. But why is it that Southwest is the only airline that is literally singling out their customers in this type of manner?
I believe a bunch of people existing in a larger body as we put it now. We're using Southwest in the past because of that policy, which is why now they have to go out of their way to tell people about the new one. They're like, yo, by the way, did you hear about our new policy? Delta and United and all of these other airlines didn't have a bunch of people flocking to use them because of their customer of size policy, so they don't have to be as aggressive in informing people about the new one.
Southwest has completely lost the plot. The new CEO or whoever is making these decisions is running the company into the ground. And maybe that's the plan.
Well, I think giving away free seats before was not very profitable. That's why they had to do this.
Maybe they're trying to force bankruptcy, but
I don't know how it's going to bankrupt them to make more money.
whatever the case, I will never fly with them again.
Okay, so she's upset with the new policy. She said back in the day they enforced the old policy on her, and at the time she liked it. She's like, thank you for making sure that I'm comfortable and everyone else is comfortable. She was thanking them when they were giving her the seat for free, but then when she heard that she has to pay for it in the future, she got upset. If all of the people that don't fit into one seat all flock to your airline because they can get a free second seat, that doesn't sound good for business. Southwest clearly didn't think that through. They were like, yeah, we're going to have this customer of size policy. We'll give people a free extra seat if they don't fit into one. Everybody will be more comfortable and safer. But they didn't realize that having that policy would attract obviously all of the larger people who don't want to have to pay for a second seat. So now you have entire aircrafts with second seats next to people not being taken up that we were giving away for free. Southwest, like I said, can definitely handle this in a better way though. Next.
And I speak for all fatties when I say, no worries, Southwest. I'm gonna take my big fat coin elsewhere.
Is that a Wisconsin accent? Okay, we're gonna take our big fat coin elsewhere.
And your colors are ugly anyway, bitch.
How dare you? Now you've gone too far. Taking your big fat coin elsewhere is one thing, but making fun of Southwest's colors? Ooh. Now you've gone way too far. Next.
And is Southwest going to be discriminating against tall people and buff men? Specifically, tall, buff men.
I don't know. Are they?
Because if you've ever sat next to a man whose shoulders are wide, he will encroach on those itty bitty seats.
I've never seen somebody with shoulders so wide that they were spilling into the neighboring seats.
Because I'm seeing them with their size policy talk to larger male presenting people and larger women. But I'm not seeing any buff people or tall people who happen to be buff.
Okay, what does that tell you? Being too tall doesn't encroach on neighboring seats. Being too buff doesn't encroach on neighboring seats. That's why they're not making them buy a second seat.
Men having to go through any sort of discrimination with this new size policy.
Well, I wouldn't call it discrimination when they make larger people pay for a second seat that they spill into either.
And that I find very interesting because tall people are going to encroach on the seat in front of them.
What? So some people are so tall that their legs are just shoving the seat in front of them up out of the way. Are you sure those tall people don't just have their legs completely crammed into this tiny space? You're saying that their legs are literally pushing the seat forward in front of them. I've never heard of this phenomenon. I've never had my seat straight up pushed forward because the person behind me was too tall. Man, your legs are stronger than these metal seats. What the heck? These seats should be made out of your leg bones because your leg bones are stronger than this metal. Like, if the leg room is not adequate because you're too tall, your legs will just be crammed in there. You're not going to shove the person in front of you out of the way like these seats are made out of some brittle-ass bamboo or something. They're made out of metal. Metal is strong.
Right?
Not right.
Especially tall men, because they like to widen their legs, completely understandable. So they're going to encroach on the seat in front of them.
Being too tall for a seat is not the same as being too wide for a seat. If you're too wide for a seat, you could spill into neighboring seats. If you're too tall to fit into the seat, you can't really change the space. Your body is contorting to fit into it.
And then buff men are going to encroach on the seats beside them.
I've never seen somebody so buff that they're spilling into the seats next to them because your body is still confined to your bone structure.
Or is this just a fat-phobic policy?
Okay, well, I don't think it's a fat-phobic policy. I think they make people that don't fit into one seat and spill into neighboring seats buy a second seat. If they're not doing that to buff or tall people, it's because the buff and tall people aren't spilling into a neighboring seat. If they were, they would gladly make them pay for it. As we know, Southwest likes money. They finally decided to start making money over there. If they could charge a taller person for a second seat, you bet they absolutely would. Like I said though, a tall person doesn't encroach on the seat in front of them or behind them or anything like that. You're just crammed into the seat and your bones will just have to bend and contort. The seat is not going to bend to accommodate you. You gotta bend your femur to squeeze it into the seat. It's really interesting that Tess Holiday didn't know about the new policy and she's upset that she had to buy a second seat. I love that in that DM, she's like, the person recognized me and let me on the plane first and told me that they love my content. And they also said that that's weird that I had to buy a second seat. That's not how it should be. So that's an interesting story because as we know, anybody that works at Southwest would already know that you have to buy the second seat. So that doesn't make any sense. Oh yeah, by the way, speaking of Tess Holiday, tomorrow I'm going to start reading one of her books. Take up space, y'all, on What I Read Wednesday. Next Wednesday, we're going to read a chapter or two from Tess Holiday's book. For the next couple Wednesdays, or however long people keep clicking on the videos, I will be doing What I Read Wednesdays instead of What I Eat Wednesdays, so be sure to check out that video. Other than that, what do you think of the clips that we just saw? Leave a comment below. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Anyway, that about does it. Thanks for watching, commenting, liking, and subscribing. And I'll see you in the next one.